Sunday morning meditation, I'd like to talk to you about rest. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm resting. And hopefully that's what you're doing too, because you are done with finals. And I hope that you are at home next to maybe a roaring fire or maybe a TV with a football game on, just relaxing because you earned it. And today, actually, in 2 Samuel, we read about a similar kind of rest that King David has. Scripture tells us in 2 Samuel that God gives Samuel rest after all of his battles and after all of his enemies have been coming in on all sides. He's been fighting with the Philistines and all these other people groups, but God gives him rest. And we have a picture there of David just kind of sitting in his cedar log house, maybe in a chair next to a fire with a pipe, who knows, and he's resting. And while he's resting, he kind of thinks a little bit, and he says, hey, you know what? God is living in a tent right now, and I'm living in this house, this big house. So he decides that he wants to build God a house too, and that's his idea. But a lot of times in life, we find that God has a different idea than what we have. And that's what we see as well. God says to him, no, David, you're not going to build me a temple. Instead, I'm going to build you a house. Your son, after you, is going to build a temple, and that's not for you. But what I'm going to do for you, David, is I'm going to establish a house for you. And that's pretty cool because it's just kind of a picture of the extravagance of God's love. When we think we have something to bring to God, a lot of times he kind of laughs because we're children to him. You know, we should have the faith of a child, and also sometimes the things that we bring to God are almost laughable in a good way. But that's kind of the picture of David we have. So all that goes to say that this is a picture that we can apply to our Advent season right now. Because what does David's house go on to produce? But Christ. And in the major, we see the completion of that covenant that God initially makes with David and says, I will continue your house for generations. And Christ is part of that lineage. And so today, as hopefully you sit by a fire, maybe in front of a TV, maybe vegging out on Christmas cookies from the freezer while mom isn't looking, I pray that you would have rest, and that also you would be able to contemplate that mystery and that extravagant love that God shows in David, and also in the Advent major.